Hello Flosstube, it's Lori of Mischievous Stitches. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do a whip parade. I have a pretty substantial amount of whips and I thought I would share them with you. This past couple of weeks, so many Flosstubers have shared their whips with us, and those whips are inspiring and enabling, and I enjoy seeing them. And I thought I would share mine with you too. So this past year, I did knock a few of them out, but as you will see in the coming minutes, I have many more whips than I have that I need to get control of. So going forward this year, I'm going to continue to work on those whips, and but at this time, it's kind of an accountability to myself. So I want to do a whip-lash. I want to go back and see things that I haven't seen in several weeks or several months, and probably pick a few from the pack that I'm going to focus on this year for a finish. So if you will, grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's get started. So they're really in they're in no real order. I'm going to just pull them out of this tote. I've got a long knockoff 21 tote, and my whips, I have a lot of the project envelopes, and the whips will sit in it perfectly like this. So it is stuffed from front to back and overflowing. So that gives you kind of an idea of the whips I had there. Now there are a few other whips, the ones that I shared last weekend and in my video. I'm not showing those again this weekend. And there may be a few, there's always a few after I do a whip parade that I forget that I had. So this is as many as I can think of. So we're gonna get started. This is a lavender and lace. This is Sansa of the Forest. I do believe I've seen Vonify for stitching this one recently. I started this one a couple of years ago with some friends, and I've gotten very little done on it. The last time I stitched on it was when I was at my friend Mary's house, and we were starting this, I think, just as a Christmas start. Mary loves Christmas, and so do I. And so I've just got the outline of the bear's ears, so not very much progress. And this is one that I would love to get back to. All of them, I feel that way about all of them when I get going. Because it re-inspires me. But look at the colors for this one. It has a buku of DMC. And I'm stitching it on a piece of flax, 36 count flax Edinburgh linen. There's no beads or anything in this one, so there's no need. You know, when you do beading and things, you have to really might be mindful of the count of linen that you're working on, so that those beads will lay as they should. But there's that. And this is one of the project bags that I had made a couple of years ago. I made one for every month. And this is a So Much to Love bag. There you go. Let's see. And this is a Polygon. I also started with those same friends. And I don't think the pattern's not in here, but I was inspired to start this one after, and I've gotten very little started. It's the curtains behind an old Singer sewing machine that's sitting in the window of someone's room. I was inspired to start and stitch this one after I purchased my first Singer sewing machine. It was a hand crank, and I had the perfect place. I want to sit that machine up for display, and I wanted to have that picture frame behind it. And I haven't gotten any further with it. Another bag that I made, I love poinsettia. This one is the Santa. This is my restart. It's by Stardust. This is Smoky Mountain Christmas. Let me show you what I did. So friend weekend. We had a weekend together, so a couple of nights, a few days, and we stitched. I started this that weekend, and that's how far I had gotten. When I realized my fabric was not going to be large enough. So I spent 3 days working on this one, got home, and had to restart it. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do with the remainder of this, and I can't really repurpose like I did with my Christmas Eve, that piece of stitching, but so I gave it a restart, and I was working towards a finish that year and stopped. But this is where I got, and I focused on this for quite a while. So the sky, I have done the sky and one strand, and the Santa, the bears pulling the sleigh, the puppy, they're all going to be done in 2 strands. And this is one I really want to get back to because I just love this one. And I know Dina Half Stitched Cross Stitch finished this one a couple of years ago, had it framed beautifully, and I think she placed pretty high in her local fair that year with it. But it was justly deserved because it is a beautiful piece when it's finished up. And because it's basically a full coverage piece, I decided to do that just on a plain white even weave, because if you're not going to see the fabric, for the most part, why go through the expense of purchasing an overdyed fabric? And I've got this one. This is a bag by my friend Mona. It's a little more narrow, but deeper. She does a really good job on her bags. This is Leeds House Sampler, and the same group of friends. We started this one as well together, and I think Natasha changed up the colors and decided to do hers in purple, and I believe that Donna has finished hers. And this one is stitched with the Sulky Thread Petites. So all the colors needed are here. And it calls for like a smoky gray linen, and I decided to do mine on a green, and it's a Witchelt. And you see this? It can just stand up by itself, basically. It's just so stiff. But this is where I got on that. And right now the blue stands out pretty well on this green. But as the greens start to, you can see I've got a few stitches in the green. I'm hoping they're really gonna pop on this green fabric and set it off. That's my plan. The clock struck 9, let's move on. Here's another bag that I made. I do like looking back at the bags I made too. Actually, this is a kit, so I don't have to show this one. So I'm gonna put that one to the side. This is Summer Quaker. This came from a Secret Sister some time ago. I made a small start on it. It is stitched with the Valdani threads. She was such a generous Secret Sister. She gifted me the thread as well. I mean, the thread and the fabric and just everything I needed to start it. But aren't those beautiful? I just love those. And I have a very small start. Like, very small start. I did hear a sister stitcher this week. She was talking about, it was Shanda. She was talking about what a start is. It could be one strand, it could be one stitch, it could be, and it just made me, reminded me of a conversation some of my local stitch friends and we all had at one time discussing what is considered a start. How many stitches is considered a start? And I think we decided on 10. This barely makes that 10. What do you think justifies a start? Just any stitch? I'm just curious. Because to me, this is like on the boundary, you know. If it's something that I can easily pull out in a few minutes and reuse the fabric, is it really considered a start? This is one I am hoping to get back to this year. For a long time, I was a Mirabilia stitcher. I'm still a Mirabilia stitcher. But I still love my mirrors. I love the ladies in the big, beautiful dresses and all the embellishments with the metallic threads and the beads and the charms and just everything. So this is one that I started. I've got my working copy in here and do not have my pattern. This is Rose Celebration. And if you've ever stitched a mirror, you know how big those charts are. So oftentimes, or every time actually, I have a copy made. I run up to Staples in my local city here, and I have a larger copy of that pattern made so that I'm not, I don't want to destroy the original. But this is Rose Celebration. I do really love this one, so this one will be a focus. I'm just going to put her to the side because she will be a focus for this year. And if you can see, there are some beads in her already. I do bead as I go. I put them, my mirrors on my Q-snaps. But she's going to be a big girl, and she really develops down here. So even though it kind of looks like I have half done, I think I have more of the difficult part because this is pretty confetti heavy. It's beaded, but her dress itself is big chunks of stitching. So if I ever just pick her up, I should be able to knock her out in a couple of months. But I'm gonna put her to the side because this will be a 2021 focus. I really wanna get her finished up. Plus just the supplies. This is just, I've got these wound-on bobbins. These are the extra threads because you need multiple skeins of several colors. And I've got them stored in this box. So I've got all these threads, pair of scissors, needles, everything. That's one thing with the WIPs. They're kitted. So I really want to work on these WIPs to get a lot of the supplies back into my stash. Okay, this is one I really want to work on this year too. This is my Father's House by the Bay Needle Arts. I love the house, I love the trees, I love the grassy lawn. I just really love this. And it says, it's two different parts of two different verses, and it says, there are many rooms in my Father's house. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So I think that I'm gonna cut off this one and leave this one and maybe put it in the bottom. So I'm gonna remove, this one will be gone. And I want to move the one here on the top to the bottom. And I've got a small start on this. This was a Mania start a couple of years ago. And this is one of the reasons last year I decided to do a little Mania because I made so many starts because I love my big pieces. I'm a medium to large stitcher as far as my pieces, my choice of pieces to stitch. And when you do Mania, that gives you lots of really large WIPs in your stash. And so this past year I did a little Mania where I did only things that I knew I could finish within the month of May for Mania. This is another one that I've put to the side last time I went through my WIPs because this was a stitch along with Lynette of Homesteading on the Home Front while she was still in Guam, so it's been a couple of years ago. And this is Quaker Handwork. This is by Brenda Gervais. And I've gotten a good bit done on this, so this is definitely something that I could knock out this year. And this is stitched on a 40 count. I think this is Week Style Works parchment, I believe. I love those colors on this piece of fabric. I think they're gorgeous. So this is something I'm going to put to the side for this year as well. And last week I shared with everyone that I had pulled out a Lottie Doll sampler, and I was going to do one strand a day. And I really like, even though it's just one strand a day, I'm actually making some decent progress. So I'm very happy with that. And so next weekend when I share my current works with you, I look forward to sharing with you all what I've gotten completed. Okay, let's get into the basket. Now those were on top of the basket. This is Theron Traditions Needles and Pins. This is a stitch along that I myself and Emily of Eclectic Possessions started a couple of years ago. I don't know if Emily has finished hers. Several of you joined in. I know Crecio joined in, but this is where I am with mine. This is another one I'm going to put to the side for this year. I'd really like to knock this one out. I'm about a third done, as you can see. So the top portion is done, and I have dropped down onto the house. Well, I say a third's done, but then you look, there's full coverage there at the bottom. So am I a third done? Probably not. Let me show it to you again, because this one is a pretty beautiful piece. And the border is not symmetrical on it, which is different than a lot of samplers. So you really have to pay attention when you're working on that piece. Another bag I made. So let me put this in this year's pack. Now this is a piece that I started for my local guild, and I haven't touched it in a long time. And it features a queen bee. It's done in golds and yellows and purples, and it'll take up this whole canvas. And I was excited to start a canvas piece. And I'm sorry I had the picture upstairs, because I do have it in a folder, but I just have not worked on it. I'm not sure that I'll get back to it this year. I don't want to stretch myself too thin and claim that I'm going to work on too many pieces, but relatively soon I do want to get back to that one. Let me put this in. This is a piece I stitched and started years ago. This is Spooky Tree, and it is in the Halloween 2013 Just Cross Stitch magazine. And I had this weird piece of fabric, and I thought the tree would look perfect on this fabric. And that's all I've gotten done. It's a monochromatic piece. It's just a spooky tree, and honestly, I got bored with it. I don't know that I'll ever get back to it. This is Threads Through Time. This is a silk gauze piece. The pattern on there. I've got the pattern but don't have the picture because it's on an actual card, but it's a tiny little piece. This is a lot more work than it looks to be, but you can see this is the back. It's where I've tied my threads off to get them started, and there's the work. And it's a tiny little sampler. So like I said, this is silk gauze. It's, I think, a 40 count silk gauze. So you use one strand, and you have to be very careful, because if you think ripping out 40 count fabric, imagine silk gauze. You still hanging in there with me? Actually, this one's a kit. This is Lottie Da Mockingbird. Kitted this up years ago. I'm just going to put that to the side. That's a kit and not a WIP. This is another Mirabilia. She did her first retreat here in South Carolina, and the next retreat she did was in Casa Cecina. And this was the retreat piece, and it was sent to me by a friend. And I started it on a piece of Under the Sea Fabrics linen, because Leslie's the one that hosted the first Mirabilia retreat, and that's as far as I got. So this is how it will look, and that's as far as I got. once again, all the thread supplies just hanging around in these things I've not even been working on for several years. Here's another piece, silk gauze. This is a Kathy Barrick. This is Noah's Ark. And let me share with you what I got done on this one. Tiny, tiny, tiny little animals. Make sure it's right side up. Yep. Look at that left-hand side. Can you see the giraffe? Isn't that neat? So you see here, I've already tied some of the threads off for this one. But that's the front. Teeny tiny. I don't think the framing on this one would be very expensive. At least if I do it right. I don't go all out. This is going to go on my this year pile. This is the Sampler Company by Brenda Keys. This was a Mania start in 18. I love this piece. I always love this piece, and I want to get it done, so I'm going to put it on this year's pile. Oop. It's not going to be very big. This is, I believe, a 40 count. I'm sure it is a 40 count. And I just really want to get it finished. So look at all those beautiful colors. So I kitted it up when I purchased it. I use these Sharpie markers to mark. I get the plastic bobbins, or I used to. I've been using floss rings, floss tags now for a while, but I use the plastic bobbins, and so I use the permanent markers to write the numbers on them. But this one's going to go in a this year pile. And I do believe Emily has this one as well. Emily's Eclectic Possessions. I'm going to stitch along, lady. Okay, so that goes on this year pile. This is another Mirabilia or Nora Corbett, which is the designer. And this is Gardenia. But to me, she looks like a lightning bug every time I see her. So she is being stitched on one of those printed pieces of Weigert fabric. So one side is printed, the other side is just the plain white fabric. And all I have done is her head and the beading around her head and the embellishments. She's going to be gorgeous. I just haven't stitched her. The next one is going to be the Sweetheart Tree. This is Love. This one was my lunchtime small, my lunchtime piece for a while. And this is the pattern. It has lots of specialty stitches, French knots, that kind of thing. So I have it outlined, and I don't think it would take much of anything to get that completed. But you can see, I think the worst part of it is actually the outline. I always, whether it's samplers or like the Brenda Keys piece, it's those borders when you're doing something that's blocked out like that, that I dread a little bit. So I'm going to put this on the pile because that's something I can easily knock out this year. And then I have this piece. This one is Paulette Stewart's Fall, the seasonal sampler. Fall is my favorite time of year. It's my favorite colors. And another one that'll go on this year's pile because I've gotten a good bit done on this one as well. Now this one is heavy counting to me because everything's just kind of spread out. You really do have to count over and down to get to somewhere, and you really, in something like this, I have to check and double check my counting so that I don't get off. So this is beginning to be some types of pieces that I don't look forward to for that reason. Sometimes I feel like double counting, sometimes I don't. So it's a little rebelliousness in me a little bit, but this one's going to go back on the pile for this year. And I do believe that a few of these are placed in the front of this basket just for that reason, because I intended on working on them last year. Okay, this is the piece from the New Jersey Flosstube retreat. It's the freebie pattern that was designed by Arlene Cohen. And we were all given a piece of fabric, and I chose my thread. And I was going to beat it, and that's as far as I got while I was there, and I have not picked it up since. I had such a great time at that retreat. I really want to commemorate it. I really need to get back to this. And then this is a Blackbird design piece. This is a simple wish. It was gifted to me by a friend. It was kitted up. And I started at Mania 2018, and this is where I got. So it's using the call for fabric and the call for threads. And you can't go wrong with Blackbird. They're just beautiful designs. Then this is another one that's going to go on this year's pile. This is the Prayer of St. Francis by Lizzie Kate. When I first purchased this, I had the idea of finishing this up for a friend. 2 years later, I'm still working on it. But this is what I've gotten done. I changed the colors up a little bit. Lizzie Kate has bright colors. These are still bright to me, but I toned them down a little. And there's actually nine rows of verse, and I have 2 of those, so I've got a decent start on it. It's stitched on 36 count, so it's a good bit smaller than what it if you use the called for fabric to stitch. I don't know that we're going to get through this today. Here's another Mania 2018 start. This is Lottie Dawes. That's my working copy. Let me show you the pattern. Lottie Dawes, Tidings of Great Joy. I love Lottie Daw, my favorite designer. I have too few of her pieces stitched. This is a big piece of fabric. That's my meager start. Like I said, what constitutes a start? This is Tom Turkey. This is a Not Forgotten Farm. Thomas, not Tom Turkey, but Thomas. And I started this one, I don't know, maybe 2017 at a retreat I attended. And this is my start on him. That's when my eyes were not troubling me as much as they are now. This is a very densely dense fabric weave. I don't know that I would be able to see that now, to be honest. When I get back to it, I'll find that out, won't I? I do love these project bags. This past year, I ordered a few off of Amazon, and I've been kitting up smalls in them for Manias. And I've got a little basket with them, so when I empty one, any that I already have, I put them in those baskets. These are the ones I used for years before I was introduced to the fabric bags here on Flosstube. But these are my favorite. And this one, I'm going to put to the side because it is just a kit. This is a piece, this is a Joan Elliott that I started, and there is what it will look like. Oh, that's my working copies. Let me fold that back. And I got started on her because, like I said, I love ladies in big, beautiful dresses, big hats. She's gonna be gorgeous. It was my only Joan Elliott that I have ever even attempted to stitch, but I love that. Just what I see so far, just what I've stitched is gorgeous. And it reminds me of Kate Winslet's hat when she got out of the carriage to get on the Titanic in the Titanic movie. Though hers was white and black, this is the type hat, and it's just gorgeous. So let me put her away. And what do we have here? This is another kit, so it's going to go to the side. This is a Momily bag with stamps. This is His Eyes on the Sparrow. I purchased this a long while ago with all the threads and was going to stitch it with Lorraine Rags to Stitches, and I know she was focusing on this last year, and I have very, very little done. And I'm sure that many of you have seen others stitch this one, but just for scope of how big this is, and there's my start. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to work on it this year, but eventually, I will get that one worked. This is a bag made by my friend Diana. It is Kismet Stitches, and I don't remember what's in this one either. Oh, this is the Elizabeth Lily sampler by Macintosh Samplers. And I only have just a small amount on this one as well. This is another 2018 start. And I started it, I pulled the colors, I thought everything was gonna be okay. And then I'm not enjoying these colors. So I just kind of put it down. I did make a decent start though. Those colors. So that one needs to be dolled up a little bit. I love the verse in it. It talks about God's love. Those colors. That's why I put that one down. This one is another kit. It's a Shores of Hot Run. No, I did start this. It's not a kit. Shores of Hot Run Hollow. And I have a very small start on that one. So you can see the outline of the lighthouse. I saw a lot of people stitching on this one last year. I think Amy of I Love Toads, she had made a start on it, and it made me want to pull mine out, but I didn't. And this is a very, very old WIP. I think this is my oldest WIP. This is Welcome by Moss Creek Designs. I took a class with Ray Iverson with this one. I took a couple of classes with her. And so this has pulled work in it. So the majority of the pull work is complete. But see those wrinkles? I'll probably never get those wrinkles out. And it's stitched with flower thread. But you see all the pull border is done. The reason I stopped with this one is if you can see in the pattern, there's some cut work right there in needle weaving. That intimidated me. I'm a lot more confident stitcher now. I'm pretty sure I can knock that one out pretty easily. I just need to get work on it. You still there? What is this one? This is the Silver Creek Samplers. This is the Lord is My Shepherd. I started this one at a retreat year before last, and there's my start. This is stitched on with the called for threads on a piece of Under the Sea Fabrics Beach Walk. It's a beautiful piece of fabric. And I'll have some left over when I'm done, but there's that. And this is going to go on this year's pile too because I've been dreaming of this one. So that gives me already 4 pieces for this year. 5 pieces, 6. Okay, so this one is a lavender and lace. What is the name of this one? Nantucket Rose. I started this one not long after joining Flosstube with Dina half stitch cross stitch. She of course has finished hers, and this is my meager start on that one. So I've got a good bit of the greenery in the top, but this is my piece for that. And I'll eventually get back to this one as well. Wouldn't that piece look so nice in a little girl's room? Maybe above a bookshelf. I'm going to show you just a few more. I don't know that we're going to make it through them all. This is another Sampler Company piece. What is the name of this one? The Sailor's Wife. And I think I made a start on this in the 2018. Actually, this one's just a kit. I've not even started it. So that's good. I cannot do, this is not a WIP. Let me go back into, this goes in the kit pile, not the WIP pile. This is a Sassafras sampler. I started this one with Jen from here on Flosstube. We attended a nickel apartment class together and we started this one together. Jen, how are you coming on yours? Once again, a meager start. It's beautiful threads though. They're all over dyes. I chose a 40 count fabric. It's gonna be gorgeous when it's done. The original is there on display in Sassy Jacks. Some of these really are like a whiplash that you go back and I just look at them and remember how beautiful they are and then wonder why I put them down. Here's another one. Prairie Schooler, ABCs, love it. Years ago, this is a very old WIP, years ago on Vanna Pfeiffer's blog, she had started this. She'd gotten all the measurements together, posted them on her blog. I go out, get the supplies, order the charts, and I do have a decent start on it. I have A, B, C, and D completed. Isn't that gorgeous? And I'm stitching them 1 over 1. I want to say this is a 32 count. But this is the size. That's a lot of stitching. So it'll be 3 rows of, I think it was 3 rows. Anyway, we'll discuss that when I pick it back up to stitch again. I don't even have the threads in there. That's what's gonna be an issue when I go to pick it back up again. Where are my threads? This is the Heirloom stitching sampler. You hear that? That's the curse of plastic bags and your patterns. I can feel where that's stuck. This is the Heirloom stitching sampler by Victoria Sampler. I'm stitching these in overdyes, and this was a stitch along that was hosted at my local stitch shop when it was still open. Several of the ladies has finished it. My sweet friend Jane, she's finished hers, and here I am. hopefully I'll be able to go stitch with her sometime within the next month, and maybe I'll take that one with me and work on that in the presence of the ladies I started with. This one, I found this one last year when I was doing my WIP parade. I was gathering things together. This is going in this year's pile. I want to finish this up. I for a long time, could not find the pattern. And so when doing the WIP parade, I found the pattern and it got me excited because I still had the piece. Love the fabric I chose. I love the colors against the fabric. And let me show you. I really need to finish him up. I know that I will be so happy when I do. So I'm going to put him on this year's piece, but he's not stitched in full crosses all the way through. There's a lot of 1/2 as well as a 2/2 to make, you know, Jesus himself really pop. But this is Christ in Gethsemane. I really want to finish this one up. So this is definitely going on a pile for this year. But yeah, I had my working copies, but I didn't have all the working copy. And I couldn't find the pattern. I didn't know where it was. I couldn't get another one because I didn't remember the name of the pattern. Hence all the project pouches now. We're getting there. Leslie, I just found it. I was gonna stitch this along with Leslie Hurley for Christmas, and I could not find this pattern. It was just wedged up against the very end of this, but down on its side. This is Road to Bethlehem. And I have a small start on this, which is why I wanted to work on it with Leslie for Christmas. Just the normal shepherd's bush colors. Beautiful. Like Leslie, I have many shepherd's bush kits from over the years. Some gifted to me, some I purchased. I just need to get to work on it. And I've decided to kind of curb my spending with stitching. I'm gonna allow myself to do fabrics this year, but not kits. You see what I've got here. Why am I buying patterns? Why not kit up the patterns I have? I mean, these are kitted up, but there's so many that aren't. This is Exemplar 2. This is by Theron. I took a class from her with my local stitch shop, and this is the piece that she taught. And this is my start. So this is another I'd love to get back to. Just, it's not going in this year's pile. There's very few colors in it. It should be relatively easy to knock that one out. I just need to get back to it. I need to get back to them all. If I had a phrase for the day, it would be, I need to get back to it. I'm saying that on almost every one of them. This is, got a working copy, but no pattern. Oh, that's why. It's And They Sinned. I made a start on this in 2018. I bought a whole yard of fabric, and on one side, I cut it down the center, because on one side I'm doing And They Sinned. On the other side of that yardage, I am doing the long, narrow piece by Teresa Vanette, Shakespeare's Peddler. There's my start. Another mania start. So how many of these mania starts are really starts? So I think that year I did one for every day of the month. And some of them I've knocked out, but others are just too big to knock out in a day. What was I thinking? If I ever sign up for Mania again, someone needs to jerk my chain. Just yank it really hard. Someone needs to cut my thread. Something, do something. This is Heaven and Earth Designs Owen. This is a full coverage piece for Jacob. And it's a knight leaving for battle. And I'm assuming this is his servant here. He was in elementary school when I started this. He's a grown man now. He still doesn't have it. I did stitch him something in the meantime, so don't get too angry with me, ladies. I know how y'all love Jacob. And he's doing great, by the way, because he's in Montana now. He's experiencing real snow. He's glad to be stateside, but with COVID so running rampant right now, he had to come home from Italy and he had to quarantine for 2 weeks. And of course, even if he came home for Christmas, he was going to go back in quarantine again, but this time on his time. So we're hoping this summer the restrictions will be relaxed and then he can come and stay for a while. This is a Starry, Starry Night pattern by, doesn't say the company, it just said by Vincent van Gogh. I started this one for Chelsea some time ago. This is a very stiff, I think this is like a Charles craft or something, because once again, it was full coverage. I didn't see buying any expensive fabric to stitch this, but this is as far as I got. And that's where the confetti killed me right there. Vincent van Gogh's Starry Nights to Starry. I don't know that I'll ever finish that one. That one might be a give up. This is a pumpkin hollow quilts bag. And this is a piece I started with my needle, Ackworth Friendship. This is done by our friend Ellen here on Flosstube, or on Instagram. She doesn't do a Flosstube. I changed the colors up a little bit. I chose the fabric. I've outlined the blocks. We were going to do a stitch along where someone else stitches the pieces. We had someone drop out of our group, and then things just didn't work out for it. So I ended up not finishing it up. I'd love to finish it someday because I just love Ellen. She's such an interesting person, such a sweet person. I want to have one of her pieces finished. This is another pumpkin heel hollow quilts bag. This is a kit. I took to a friend's house. This is the Biedermeyer. I've got it kitted up. I just need to start it, so it does not need to go on this. Excuse me. This doesn't need to go on this pile because I haven't started it. Oh, this is the other piece of that yard of fabric. Noah's Ark. Jenny Bean for the Parlor series. And this is like the third one. Yeah, part 3. Another 2018 start. And this is where I got on that one. That's folded over in half. It really interests me to have something that large on the wall. Now the framing I'll have to sell a leg or something. But the thought of having a piece that you've worked on for that long that is such, it will have a presence in the room that it's hanging in, and I look forward to having either that one or And They Send, or both stitched and framed one day. We're almost there, because another one in the back is a kit. So this is another piece that I started at the Mirabilia retreat in 2018. Not Mirabilia. Flosstube, New Jersey. And I know my friend Ellen ended up picking this one up shortly thereafter and stitching it and completing it and framing it. And I hope to get back to this one. And I had planned on stitching it along with her, and that just didn't work out. But here she is. That's how far I got. So I ended up focusing on this at the Flosstube Retreat, New Jersey, because I bought this there at that local shop, got the fabric there. And I will eventually get back to her too, because she's going to be a big girl. Big and worth it. And I bought this bag while I was there because that was when the royal wedding, that was the weekend of the royal wedding. And then this will be my last WIP that I have down here today. This is, this is the one that I said last time has bad memories associated with it. This is Elizabeth Mears. And I was working on this when I got the call that my dad had been diagnosed with cancer. And I have not stitched on it since that call. Beautiful, yes. Unfortunately, I put the wrinkle in that terrible, terrible spot. Oh, and that's the back. So let me show you the front. Beautiful already. 40 count, 1/1. Beautiful detailing. Beautiful. Just bad memories. You know what? I'm going to stick this in this year's. Maybe I'll work on it on the anniversary of his passing in March. I need to do that. That's it. You made it through. Not quite an hour. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I entertained you at least for a moment. Everyone have a great weekend and a wonderful stitch-filled coming week. Next weekend, I'll be back to share with you my current works and how far I've gotten on those. I can't wait to show you the progress. I'm excited about it. And until then, hugs and stitches, everyone. Bye-bye.